Good evening, friends. Glad you're here tonight. And thank you so much for listening. Welcome to the new podcast, Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. Topics discussed include sexual addiction, religious abuse, and religious disenfranchisement, and other types of addiction. This live platform offers counseling sessions, meaningful question and answer, and a counseling continuum. The team includes Personnel Director Lita Williams, our LPN Linda Holmes, Technical Director Miss Chenille, our visiting case class Larry Brown and Ray Edwards, and I'm Prince, licensed counselor and founder of Antioch Youth Center Retired. The views and opinions expressed on the podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions and goals Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches staff. Be advised, these topics contain sensitive content at times, and listener discretion is advised. Friends, our main focus, our mantra here is to implement three things. Number one, forgiveness, reconciliation, and healing. Thanks for joining that process. We can all do our part in doing those things for the glory of God. We want to introduce our guest tonight, and of course, our first guest, our listening audience. I want you to feel free to join in. You can chat, question and answer, and you can go to YouTube, Church of God in Macon, Georgia, and click on the Wounded Hearts area there, number 14. And also our special guest is Thomas J. Russell, Church of God child, also president of King Priests, a nonprofit 513C entity. He's a husband, father, minister, businessman, owner, and property mogul. Mr. Russell, if people want to connect with you for off-topic questions, how can they contact you for your podcast or your programs?
You can simply contact me. You can contact me at my email at Russell's Mobile Roadside. That's mostly where we do most of our foundational work. That's at Russell's Mobile Roadside at gmail.com. Russell Mobile Roadside at gmail.com. And that's where we do most of our foundational work for our nonprofit.
Side note, you also give away a lot of food for the community. What is that program all about?
What we do here in the Middle Georgia area, and there's fans all across America, what we do is every Tuesday at 4530 Columbus Road here in Macon, Georgia, we partner with Smith Street Baptist Church. That's at 340 Reed Street, Macon, Georgia, in the South Macon area. I'm in the West Macon area, but what we do, we partner with the government and we feed families. We try to feed families and give out food boxes to help the community during the pandemic. A lot of people lost jobs, they lost wages, and they just didn't have enough money to feed themselves. So what we did, we had trucks come in, and we partnered with them, and we gave out food and helped out the community.
All right. So again, friends, our desire, this podcast is to reach out to those who've been hurt and to give them hope that they can get through the situation and they can go on to serve God. Mr. Russell, so you were the Church of God child for years, and I'm sure you faced some difficulties. What issues had the most effect on you coming up in the church?
Well, just looking back, me personally, I didn't have a whole bunch of issues. One of the things was I was a Church of God baby. And when I say Church of God baby, I came up, I had seven other siblings above me. So when you the baby, you kind of get like herd immunity, where you get kind of protected from a lot of things that go on. But one of the things that you do get in herd immunity, that you hear a lot of things. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, you get to hear a lot of things. So for me personally, being just like really damaged, it's not a whole lot, but there are some things that I did have questions about, that I didn't quite understand until I got a lot older. And one of those things was like, just like far as like what I want to do as far as sports and what I wanted to do. It was nothing like really rebellious, but it's just some things I just often wondered about, like maybe some of the stuff we had to wear, like why I couldn't wear shorts or why I couldn't be in certain activities as a child. So, those are things that I wondered about.
And parents and ministers, it's good to have a standard, but we got to explain why we have those standards, because young people, they don't have that inductive reasoning the way we do. We can take time to explain better, not just why we don't do it, but getting down to the nuts and bolts of what the issues are on their level would help out. Don't you think, Mr. Russell?
Oh, definitely, man. Like for me, for instance, I always thought in the back of my mind was one of the things that I always thought about. I was like, I grew up and I understood that the gospel had to go out. I knew it had to go out. We was trained that. We knew that the gospel had to go out and get to the people, get to the community. We wanted the gospel to go up, as a church child. I wanted, I was inspired, so I wanted the gospel to go everywhere. But a lot of times when you try to get the gospel to those places, I often wondered how they would get there. Like if they wanted them to get to the NBA, how do you get there without a person? If you wanted to go to the NFL, how do you get it to the NFL if you don't have nobody to go? So a lot of times people want to get the gospel to go to different platforms, but there was nobody educated to go, or there was nobody to go, was allowed to go to those places. To me, that's just how I was thinking.
Okay. How do those issues affect your friendships at the church? Did it affect the friendships there and those who you were connecting with?
Well, a lot of the ones that I had a lot of friendships there. I still got a lot of friendships there. A lot of us, we talk in secret. A lot of times, it's not good to really just come out because you don't want to say the wrong thing, or you don't want to consider yourself as being anti-church or anything like that. So a lot of people talked in secret. A lot of people have come to me and said, Jeff, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And, I'd be like, well, this is just how I feel. I would give my opinion, but then, at the end of the day, I had to learn, as I got older, it wasn't my opinion. I had to go back to see what the Bible said about it. And now as I got older, I give the Bible opinion about it. So.
Well, I'm just wondering, why don't we discuss these issues like we're doing now? It would help to get out on the platform, discuss these things, and that way you can get more support if they understand what we're dealing with. I think that can help, don't you? Discussing things openly.
And yes, I agree with that 100%, Pastor Moon. I was if I could for a minute, I was looking at something in the Bible, and I was thinking about David. David is one of my favorite topics that one of my favorite people in the Bible. And I was thinking about David when he came back from war, and the Philistines didn't want him to go fight with them, and he went to Ziklag. And when he got back to Ziklag, like a lot of our church people, the place was burned. Some of our people have been burned. They've been burned real bad, and nobody is really dealing with the fact that it's so many different levels to that not only have been burned, but they got smoke damage. They don't look like they've been burned. They don't. If you look at them, they look normal. They look regular, but the smoke damage. I remember a long time ago when our church caught on fire. There was areas in the church that didn't even get touched by a flame, but we had to rip those areas out anyway because of the smoke damage that took place in those areas. So in a lot of time when you got church hurt, you got people who might not look like they didn't experience the flame. And I think I might not experience the flame, but there was some smoke damage. There was some smoke damage of hearing what happened to other people. There was some smoke damage about hearing what other people had been through. And so when you hear that, some of those things got to be ripped out. They got to be tore out of you also. And I'm just a firm believer that's why, a lot of people don't get healing because they don't ever go back to recover what they lost.
Expand on that. is smoke can smoke damage affect the body and the mind and the health? You think?
Oh man, it would definitely affect the person in that aspect. If I can go on,
Please.
David made it very clear. David made it very clear what he had to do. He had to take. He took 600 men, but he only took 400 down with him. You got to go back and recover that. You got to first get with God and say, God, how do I fix this? He went to Abiathar. He went to the priest and he said, "Can I get the ephah? Could I get that thing to talk to God?" Sometimes you got to make a bold move if you're going to come out of that effective in the mind. And a lot of people don't want to do that. They're still dealing with it. And he had to make a bold move and he went and recovered all. So you can recover from it. But if you got people who are damaged, like he had, like I said, he had 600 at the beginning and 200 was so weary from what they had experienced that they couldn't even go forward and fight. So they had to take the other 400.
You could complete. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yes. Please. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. There was a question, Jeff, while you were speaking. Ms. Williams asks, how do we get those smoked and burnt to open up and talk?
That's how you get the ones that are smoked. You have to the ones who are dealing with smoke damage and those that have been burnt. You have to get those people to people such as Brother Moon, people who are professionals. In our neighborhood, we have a lot of stuff going on. Some of those people, it's similar to people who got drug-induced schizophrenia. You got to get those people that are professional counselors to get and talk to those people. They need help. They need mental, they need spiritual help, and they need mental help. And you got to have people who got experience in that, such as Brother Moon, who got a degree in that. They got to get to those people and need help. They got to talk to professionals. You got to talk about it. You got to get it out. You can't hold that stuff in, because if it don't, it get dangerous. They got platforms like this. You got to talk about it on these type of platforms.
Brother Russell, do people? I thank you for that smoke damage scenario. This is very good. Does a person know how much they've been burnt and the level of damage, do you think?
That's a good question.
No, people, when the thing about it, and I have did some fire training. A lot of time when people experience smoke damage, they don't know. A lot of people don't die from fires. They die from most people die from smoke, inhaling smoke, ingesting smoke. So a lot of people spiritually that climb up in the church, they are dead. They're walking around, they're living, but it's the night of the living dead. They have been damaged on the inside so bad that they have inhaled things like insecurity. They have inhaled molestation. They have inhaled abusive conversation. They have inhaled all type of things. So they don't even know how much then got into their lungs until they sit down with somebody or a platform like this where they can be diagnosed. And then you got to have somebody on a level, not just somebody who just say, "Oh, I'm quote unquote a minister or quote unquote a pastor." You know, you got to have somebody who have the degree or the ability to diagnose them properly, and then they can move forward from there. So they wouldn't know. They wouldn't even know. You can be hurt and not even know you hurt. But one thing I will say is that how you know it, because hurt people hurt people.
I guess that was my question. What are some of the signs that I've been damaged in church? And I would hurt others. I guess that'd be number one, right? I would hurt other people.
Yeah. If I could explain it the best way I would explain it.
Please.
It's I had a friend who had a dog. The dog that he had was abused as a child. And the dog, when he would walk the dog and cars would walk by, the dog would run, or you try to pet him, he'll snap at you. He was a very good bloodline. It wasn't that he was a bad dog, but he had experienced some bad times. So even in the church, you got people who really are not bad people, but they didn't have some abuse issues in their life. And one of the signs I'm just saying, just one of the signs that you might look for is people who snap at people. They don't really mean to be mean, but they've been abused. And when you've been abused, you can feel it. It's one thing, if you ever been held down, you don't like that feeling. And they'll fight, they'll snap, they feel cornered.
Let's say
I have another question.
I'm sorry,
for you,
please.
Jeff, if you don't mind.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I apologize. I had another question for Jeff, and it's from Miss Williams again. She said, if it's the church's responsibility to draw those out, or if it's the church's responsibility to draw those out, and if it is, how do we draw them out?
One of the things I like, and I'm not going to give my opinion, I give what the Bible say. One of the things I liked about David in this situation, everybody that went over, when he came back with the spoils, he gave it to the people that went and to the people that didn't go.
That's true.
As leaders in the church, you got to give it to the people that went and the people that couldn't get out. It's our responsibility. It's this platform responsibility. It's your responsibility. It's my responsibility. We give it to the people who went to war and the people who didn't go to war. Because there was people that in his military, if you look at that text, they say they didn't go, they shouldn't get anything. But David said, nah, we give it to everybody.
Good answer.
Good point,
I appreciate
yes.
that. Let's say you're talking to someone who's been hurt, and the odds are you are. In fact, I'm sure tonight, someone's listening here who's been wounded in church. I'm sure of it. I know that for a fact. What would you tell them? If they've been wounded, what would be your advice to them? How can they get past that to go on and serve God in a healthy way?
Well, you know, the only way you can get past this this wounded is I'm gonna I gotta stick to what David did. David, first thing he did, you got the Holy Ghost is the only thing that can get you past this. There's no strength in yourself. The first thing David did was he got the ephod because he needed to talk to God. You got because the people was talking about stoning him. Hurt people, they come in groups. People, when you do something and you hurt, you know, the parallel is that he got to the ephod. He got to talk. You got to get with God, regardless of what it is, and you got to have a sense of encouragement of yourself. He said David encouraged himself. David, once he encouraged himself, he said, I need to get some direction here. So the first thing you got to do is get to God and ask him for some direction for yourself, not for other people, for yourself. And once you ask God for yourself what direction you need to go on, he said, and if you in all your ways, if you acknowledge him, he'll direct your path. Now, either the Bible is right or it's not.
Another question for you, Jeff. Mrs. D.A. asked, how do you forgive those that hurt you if they are still there and they act as if nothing happened?
Well, that's a great question. What's her name?
Miss D.A.
Miss D.A., that's a great question. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for yourself. See, when you don't forgive a person, they rent space in your mind. And you have to forgive them for yourself, because you're talking about heavens in view, and no sin can go there, not even unforgiveness. So when you forgive a person, it's not to let them off the hook, it's to let you free. Freedom is in yourself. You got to don't let people rent space in your mind. So please forgive them and move on. I know it's difficult. I'm not saying it's not going to be trying. It's not going to be dark days. It's not going to be, because the mind wants to remember what it want to remember. But you got to dig that. That's the fight. That's the principality. That's the spiritual wickedness that's trying to exalt itself. That's just like the Amalekites who came and did it. They came and waited till David and them was going out to war and snuck in behind and burnt everything. But you got to forgive. You got to forgive for yourself. It got to be for you. The things I forgive for is not for the other person, even if they don't accept my apology. I got to do it for us.
Thank you for that. So what you're saying is, if I've been wounded in the church, my steps to healing is for me to forgive. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It's the first step. You got to forgive.
Very good. Any questions from the director?
Not right now, no, sir.
Jeff, some people in the Church of God, because of this or that's happened, I'm going back to the 1950s in a certain place, but there's a lot of people who have lost confidence in the church, in the ministry, and they've just given up. They've just stopped going. They're sitting home. What would be your advice to them who've just lost confidence in the church? What would be your advice to them?
Well, my advice to them is not to lose confidence in the church. They stay at home because they have it's kind of two-sided. First, they have established the church as a building and not the people. So that's the first step. Then the second step for me is I don't hang around people who don't value me. See, when you get around people who don't value you, you're setting yourself up for abuse. So what you have to do is you don't have to stay at home, but find some people that value you. And when you find people that value you, they love you. They'll promote you. They'll push you. And then it feeds a confidence inside of you, and then the confidence inside of you is the God inside of you, and that part of you will start growing, and you will start speaking faith and acting on it, and then you will find yourself like, man, they can't stop you anyway, because you'll realize then that it wasn't about them.
Wow, our time is ebbing away so quickly. So after you got hurt in the church or heard this and that, what helped you to heal? What steps did you take to heal after you got damaged from things that you heard?
The best way to kind of get past that is to have confidence in yourself. Self-confidence. And it's all about the person. That's why I said what I meant by not hanging around people who don't value you. When you hang around people that don't value you, you're going to continue to be hurt because they never see your value. They always going to see you for what you were at that time when they met you. That's why people say your first impression is the best one. So when people meet you on a certain level, that's where they want to keep you. That's why I believe a lot of time it was commissioned to go. I spoke about this the other day about that's why Jesus couldn't even do work in his own hometown. And he was the Christ. Because people won't value you where you're from. Sometimes you have to go other places so people can get a value and get the value, and then you'll have self-confidence in yourself. And then once you do that and you bring those few things together, you'll start seeing that, yeah, you'll get over it. Because I'm gonna tell you something else too. Work. And when I say work, another three things I also use is work, worship, and warfare. God takes people, he put them to work, then he get them in worship, and then he take them to warfare. So if you get in the church and start working, you'll get over a lot of stuff because you'll find out the field is plentiful. You don't have time to think about what other people think about you.
Because you're busy doing God's will, doing God's work.
That's right.
All right, Jeff, I want to get your information again, how they can contact you, please. How can someone contact you for off-topic questions or comments?
Okay, they can contact me once again at russellsroadside@gmail.com. russellsroadside@gmail.com.
Very good. Friends, our time is just about up. And again, I want to reemphasize, in coming weeks, we're going to be talking to Tabitha W. Edwards, double bachelor's degree. She's an accountant also and a mom, telling her story as a Saints child, her heartbreak, what she went through, the opposition, and her recovery. Friends, we discuss these sensitive things, these topics, to understand how they occur so they won't happen again. In fact, I could have done better as a minister the past 12, 15 years. I apologize for that. I could have done better. So with that in mind, we want to implement forgiveness, implement reconciliation and healing. We want to thank God tonight for our LP and Linda Holmes. Pray for her. She's been ill. Personnel director, also Linda Williams. The co-technical director, Ms. Tennille. And our special guest again, Thomas J. Russell. Thank you so much. And we're glad you came tonight for your wonderful insights. And again, we're here each Thursday. Wounded Hearts, Wounded Churches. May the Lord bless you.
Amen. Thank you.